All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. I am so excited about this conversation today. I could not sleep all week. I can't wait to have this conversation with you. We met some time ago, so this conversation is long overdue. I know you. I appreciate you. I love you as my auntie, but I want everybody else to know you. So go ahead and take a few moments to introduce yourself. But there's only one rule: do not be
Okay.
shy. Let them
Oh,
know.
all right. Okay. All right. I'm Jennifer Howard of Jennifer's Education Consulting. And I taught for 31 years in the classroom. I was an elementary teacher. And currently, I am an education consultant. And I love teaching. I love teaching all ages. Right now, I'm just focused on teaching adults. And I bring my experience, my skill, and my love to teaching whoever I'm teaching at the time.
Absolutely. And you bring it so effortlessly and so eloquently because of the books. And for those that don't know, we're going to get to that book in a minute. But I also want to talk about some of the passions that you have. But before, I have to do the obligatory introduction of myself. So for
Mhm.
those who do not know me, I am Rodrick, the Energized Educator Johnson. I help schools manage behavior for students in urban settings. I help teachers see students differently. And I do it all through good literacy instruction and also just general holistic and cultural support for children. Ooh, that was a mouthful. But that's what I do. So I
Mhm.
want to talk about passions really quickly because we're both passionate about certain things. And the passion is actually the project in which I do. So let me go ahead and just spill all of your passions out so that somebody can eventually open that book.
Mhm.
What are your passions?
Oh, well, my number one passion is books themselves. I absolutely love books. If I were to take this camera and pan it out around my house, you would see that this is a library that just happens to have a kitchen and a bathroom. Uh, because I love books. I love all kinds of books. I set a goal for myself this year to read 100 books this year. And I
Mm,
usually don't count how many books I'm reading, but I set this goal because after I retired, I realized that I needed to catch up with my reading. So I
yeah.
decided to read. Reading informs teaching, right? And
You
it
said that loud
informs
for
our
the
life.
people in the back.
I said reading informs our teaching. And there are those teachers who might say, "Oh, but I don't have time to read." You don't have time not to read. Because we have that energy. I'm talking to the energized educator. That energy has to come from a space and a place. And authors, as our absent teachers, provide that for us.
That's so good. And so I wanna talk a little bit about a passion project of mine. So the problem that I had in school, and I always say I was a bad blank child, right? We always use that reference sometimes as educators, not knowing the cultural implications of it. But I was really a bad blank child because I knew how to read. And
Hmm.
I was reading by the age of 2. I don't know if anybody remember this, but Dr. Seuss was the man at the time. Hop
Hmm.
on pop. That's all your, phonemic awareness. I had all the books. And so while others at 2 or 3 was Google and Gaga, I was putting sentences together. So you could
Right,
imagine me in first grade when
right,
you're doing language arts, and I'm like, I know this. And I was so
right.
curious in nature.
Hmm.
So I wanted to explore and experiment.
Hmm.
So teachers didn't really engage me because obviously I could read, but I was so curious that I would knock stuff over, right? I would
Yeah,
I would do
yeah.
things that weren't palatable for teachers. And so I was labeled as a bad kid as opposed to being labeled as gifted and talented.
Right.
Well, that's why I do this work because there are so many other children that are doing the same thing. And on top of what I
Exactly.
went through, I
Hmm.
was also having identity issues and moments where I didn't even love myself, even know who I was. And if
Hmm.
somebody would have sat down and
Yes.
said, this is what behavior looks like for you, this is what you're supposed to do,
Hmm.
I would have not had the rap sheet in elementary school that I had, right?
Right.
In by out, out by 9. In by 8, out by 9 is what I usually say. So that's my passion, right? To teach
Hmm.
educators to see students differently and also add some of that gifted conversation. And we teach at a deficit
That's right.
sometimes because we don't read. We don't read the numbers. We don't
Mhm.
read and understand what our students need. So that's my passion. And that's why I do this work because it's important to our children. Because guess what? If they don't know how to do
Absolutely.
it now, they
Hmm.
can't do it as adults.
That's it. That's true. That's
And
true.
with Generation Alpha coming, I think
Hmm.
that it's time to think of reform because the millennials got it. I don't know
Hmm.
what Gen Z has because I
Hmm.
don't know what they have, but I do know that they're not in a good place in terms of the data.
Hmm. No, no, they're not. No, they're not.
Right.
And you absolutely. And I think it's important for educators too, when you have that child who can read, who is in kindergarten or first grade, you need to pull that child aside and create a reading plan for that child, create
Mm.
a writing plan for that child. You see, an IEP can go both ways.
Come on. Can you speak? Can you tell everybody what an IEP is?
Yeah, so that individualized education plan is not just for the students who are having difficulty and learning disabilities, but we have to look at our children who are reading on grade level, and create mini plans for them too, for their success. So, reading out loud in the classroom has to be something that's done every single day, every grade level. Now, there's some people who argue that that shouldn't be done, but I argue that the reason why our classrooms our children are disengaged is because we're not using the power of literature as your SEL program. Oh, I don't want to go there, but I guess I have to. See,
Ooh.
before we had the SEL programs, teachers would read very good books. The award winning books like the Caldecotts and the Newberries are award winning because those authors are so good at encapsulating the human experience in those books. And those books take care of our social, emotional learning because they speak to universal truths.
And so I feel like the stories you're talking about, I want to break this down for a millennial that forgot what this is, right? The boy who cried wolf. We all remember that, right? You know,
Yes,
or let me take it a little bit further on Sunday school, right? When you
yes,
had those stories of
yes.
the people that had did undesirable things. When I released my reading YouTube channel, the first book I read was I Want My Hat Back. And
Yes.
it was about a bear looking for his hat, and he talked to
Mhm.
the rabbit, and the rabbit had actually had the hat on. So that
Sure
was a
did.
parable of being honest, right? And if
Mhm,
you see the
mhm,
rabbit ate, but when I did it in front of children, and
mhm.
I did the whole hat. And so, like, I would put a hat on a child and I would read it, and I'd be like, "You took my hat." And so the children would understand, somebody did not tell the truth, Mr. Johnson.
Yes,
Implications of that, as opposed to explicitly teaching them and lecturing them for 3 hours, you got to see through story time
yes.
what truth looks like.
There you go. Because that's the purpose and power of stories. Long before they were written down, long before they were placed in books, stories were given orally from generation to generation to generation so that children would know what was important.
So what I want you to catch, if you didn't keep all that, I'm going to say 3 words to you: open the book.
Yeah. Hmm.
Right? Because we were talking earlier, guys, and I want to bring you in real quick. Just, Auntie, can I give him a little bit?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I want to bring you in a little bit, and everybody's running around wicked. No one mourns the wicked, right?
Hmm.
But there's a scene
Yes. Oh, yes.
in that storyline,
Uh
and
huh.
there was a person
Come on.
that had so much connection with the spirit realm that
Yes.
she approached a book,
Yes.
and it only opened for her. And
Mm-hmm.
so Auntie, my question for you would be, what language
Mm-hmm.
was the book speaking to her? Because it was not English that the other people could understand.
Right.
How did it open for her? And what is the next step with
Mm-hmm.
deciphering that language that's in that book?
So I did a little bit of research because I knew you were going to ask me that question. And here's my When you said the word connection, that was it, Mr. Johnson. Connection. Alphaba's ability to open the book in Wicked symbolizes her unique resonance with the forces of, listen to this, truth, destiny, and authenticity.
My God.
Those are the same qualities needed to make us extraordinary teachers. The book was seen as a repository of esoteric knowledge or hidden power. It
Hold on now.
responds, the book responds not merely to intellect or ambition, but to alignment with a deeper universal energies.
Wait. Let me unpack that. Let me unpack that for Gen Z. Let me unpack that for Gen Z just because you know the attention span is a little off. You mean to tell me that
Yes.
as a teacher,
Uh-huh.
I can get a book to open for me
Come on now.
because my intellect is being just a little bit more?
Yes.
You
Yes.
mean to tell me that I can control because I
Mhm.
have all the knowledge in a book that would help me control the next generation? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, see, let me read it to you this way. And now you know I'm saved. So now we got to go to the book. Come on, let's go to Revelation 5,
Okay,
verse 1.
come on.
I saw a scroll in the right hand of the one seated on the throne. It
Mm-hmm.
was written on both sides, fastened with seven seals. I
Mm.
also saw a powerful angel calling out in a voice like thunder, "Is there anyone who can open the scroll, who can break its seals?" There was no one in heaven, no one in earth, no one from the underworld able to break the scroll and read it. I wept and wept that no one was found able to open the scroll, able to read it. One of the elders said, "Don't weep. Look, the lion from the tribe of Judah, the root of David's tree, has conquered. He can open the scroll, he can rip open the seven seals." Our connection with the divine is what enables and empowers us to open up the book. You know, when you're reading a book and you're reading it at just the surface level, right? But you know, wow, there's more to this book. And then you read it again, right? And as a teacher, the more you read a book with children, the more you start to see what the author has imparted inside of that book. But you yourself have to be ready to receive that deeper knowledge that's already inside of the book. That comes from reading and reading and reading at the different levels, right? You want to move from the elementary level of reading to a more introspective level of reading, the syntopic level of reading, where all of our understandings of all the other authors and all the other themes and all the other ideas begin to merge together so that our worldview now becomes clearer, right? We either see through a microscope or a
Mm.
telescope.
Co-
We get to choose
We get to
how
choose.
we see. We get to choose the lens, right? So if you're a teacher and you're operating on the microscopic level, you're teaching from a deficit mentality, right? But if you're teaching from a telescopic lens and you have the wider view of the world of ideas, you then bring that energy into your classroom and it changes the atmosphere of your entire classroom and of everybody in there because you're constantly doing what? Reading.
Wait a minute. I think you just gave away my secret. If y'all didn't know what my name meant, if y'all didn't know what my name meant, I think y'all might need to go back to that clip because she said it. And so a lot of people talk about what you just talked about, but not the energy behind it. But I
Yeah.
don't know if people caught the reference, but again, there is a scroll in a secret place,
Come on now.
and only certain people can. Let me just, because we're gonna have some Bible toters on here, so let me just go ahead and set them straight real quick. Now, the person, and I'm gonna go to the person. I'm not even gonna go to the person on earth that taught, the person that saved us, Was he a teacher?
Yes.
I'm gonna just sip my coffee, and we just gonna pause and let that breathe for a second.
Okay.
And let me say another thing: the person that saved us and taught, did it have to be formal?
No. Mm-mm.
And last but not least, the person who saved us, he taught through, wait a minute, stories.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
So for those that are in that arena, right, I want to make sure that we capture everybody, because there's somebody that's not, and you got the first reference, and that's fine. But there's somebody right here that did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
They go to these edifice, and that's fine where you go, but you don't realize that there's a thought pattern that's supposed to happen, and that transformation happens through reading.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a pain point for me. When I see children treated as if they are not readers and you treat them from a deficit mindset, that's a pain point for me. And I love to help teachers dismantle that oppression mentality.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Long
And
before children begin to read the text, they're reading you. You're the book that they're reading, your character, your compassion or lack thereof. And they're going to respond to that.
y'all, I don't know who just walked in this room, right? I don't know who took over our bodies, but that just helped somebody. So we shared a little bit of pain, but can you share just 2 additional pain points, and then we're going to go into some other things for the people?
I think the pain point that most resonated as you were speaking was how we treat Black boys
Uh-oh.
and how we sometimes come to them with preconditioned notions. Black teachers, I mean, white teachers, yes, and Black teachers too.
Talk about it. Talk about it.
Because, because the way we really feel, see, the thing about teaching, and I've done other things but teaching, the way we really feel comes out in the classroom. That's why we have to check how we really feel. If you resent Black men, then you're going to resent them little Black boys in your class. If you feel threatened and you're preconditioned to dislike them, then that's the way you're going to treat them in the classroom. But if you love them and you truly care, and you have compassion and a passion for making sure that they learn how to read and write, you'll do that. But we have to always reevaluate why, when I walk in the classroom, there's a little Black boy in the corner with his desk separated from everybody else. What's going on?
I'm gonna just let that breathe. So I wanna address the critic in the room, right? Because there's always one. And so we getting into it, y'all. This where it shifts. So if you're here with us, I need you to make sure you're here with us, because we going deeper, right? And so when I met this young lady on the other side of the computer, who I affectionately call Auntie right now, she approached me about children's literature, not knowing that I was already deep in that kind of conversation with myself, because I had the revelation of just what you said. Our Black boys or students in general aren't being treated correctly, right? And they're not getting what they need. So this session right here is a chance for us to talk about how the book opened for us.
Right.
And how we were able to transcend the message that we had, not only in our mind, but in our hearts for students. And so I want to go ahead and put a little positionality clause in it, because we're going to get the story time in a minute. But I want to share that today I am acting as the young non-veteran teacher. I am just a teacher, right? Passionate with fresh and new ideas. Having a conversation with a wise teacher that can tell me where to go. She just said, talking about putting that child in the corner. And if you are a teacher that's having that problem, you need to have a conversation like this. right? And so my auntie is the wise, retired veteran, huh? And we're going to talk about that, seasoned with wisdom. And guess what? Timeless results, innovative results, strategies for days. There's nothing new under the sun. That's that good book. So talking and having these conversations is important for mental health and also for our children. The book that we want you to open is the book of life. But before we get into that book, I want you to just give me one word that describes your teaching style, and I'm gonna do the same. What's one word that describes your teaching style?
I think that word is dynamic because of do you need for me to describe?
Go on, do that. Go on, do it.
Okay. You see, now when you first walk into the classroom, your first day, and I remember my first day just like it was yesterday, 31 years ago. You are still developing. So when I speak here today, and whoever listens to this, it's a process. All right. Learning to teach is a process. So I had the zeal, right? But I didn't have the knowledge in the beginning. Over the years, I was able to keep the zeal and add the knowledge on gradually, right? So that I want to be realistic and honest and transparent. When I walked into the classroom, I had the dynamic energy of the Pentecostal church because I knew how a preacher holds an audience. I knew how a preacher begins the sermon, pushes that sermon up to a certain climax, and then brings it back down and ends it with a powerful altar call. I understood that art and how that worked. So when I started teaching, I didn't have all the pieces together, but eventually I became very dynamic.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Somebody's going to feel that. So let me share. Let me walk in this right. And so my word is energy. I know you're so surprised, right? but my word is energy because I am of the belief, and somebody taught me in science class, please don't, if anybody's looking for science help, I'm not your guy. However, semicolon. I believe that energy is never lost, it's transferred. And I have a lot of it. Today I'm drinking coffee, but like I just got my coffee, so it ain't even kicking yet. But my energy around what happens in the classroom is important to me because guess what my teachers didn't have? Energy, right? I got the short end of the stick oftentimes, and not even just in the education sector, but nobody wanted to deal with the student that didn't know themselves. So the reason or my teaching style is energy because I'm not doing it for now. I want you to be sustainable for the future because I had a lot of doors open for me. I had a lot of books open for me because of my energy. And I want you to harness that educational energy, that vocational energy, whatever energy you have, I want you to be able to harness it so you can one day harness the wind. Right? And my goal isn't to teach you ABC. My goal is to teach you ABC 3 times over.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I want you to teach ABC and life because we are forced to think the real world is different. The real world is a myth. All that real world advocate is a myth. Wow. And so I'm going to share a story. And then, Auntie, I want you to share that story you were talking about the student that didn't speak the language and how you helped them. But I'm going to share a story of a child that I'm working with now to really illustrate what's happening. So there's a student that I mentor, and he is very, 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 very eccentric. Likes things his way. He likes to do what he likes to do. Yeah. And I taught him the ideals of power.
Okay.
And I taught him how just in one single action, he's able to move a whole school. He's like, Mr. Johnson, what are you talking about? I said, every time you make a mistake or slight lack of judgment that somebody deems is not acceptable, what happens?
Mm.
Everybody comes to talk to me. Everybody says I'm doing this. Everybody, I said, exactly. I said, that's power, young man. I said, now
Mm.
you have to shift your perspective of how you use your power.
Mm. Come
All
on now.
these people, you have all these people coming after you for the bad things. Imagine what they'll do for the good things.
Yeah.
Imagine what they'll do if you get an 100 on your math test and prove them wrong. Because
Mm-hmm.
let's be clear, sometimes teachers are bullies, but we're not on that section today.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if you walked in the front of the line with your head held high and you made sure everybody got into that classroom safely.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Just as I was talking to him, somebody walked into the room asking for him. And you know what I looked and said? I said, that just proved my point right there. And he immediately understood.
You
So I
got it.
told him the 3 rules of life. And I want to share, and then I'm going to ask Auntie to talk to you. The first rule of life was be quiet,
Mm-hmm.
because you'll see everything you need to see when you're quiet, right?
Yes.
Driving your own lane, because see, we often sometimes, and we don't realize that we running our own race. Lord, I'm running. Sorry.
Yes. It's all right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And then lastly, drink your water, because if you run in the race, you got to stay hydrated.
Mm-hmm.
And so you define what your water is.
Mm-hmm.
But these are the things I intentionally do with students, and then I have a conversation with their teachers like, do we really need to say that to him like that?
Mm-hmm.
And so teaching children their power dynamics is not us exposing them to ways to get out of things. It's
No.
exposing them to understand that you have a divine right to receive an education.
All right now.
You have a divine expectation to expect your teachers to explain concepts to you,
Yes.
because that's why you're here. But the
Mm-hmm.
way you do it and the way you go about it is energy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's me, right? That's why my classroom is energetic. But I really want to talk about this art of teaching. And I know I want to talk about the inspiration, but I think we got that. But I want to talk about the real-time adjustment that sometimes you have to make
Yes.
when you're teaching and somebody's lost.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so you shared a story about language.
Yes. I remember.
And and I really want somebody to hear that, because there's somebody out there doing it.
Mm-hmm. So the story that I shared was one. Let me just preface this. America is changing. We know our demographics are not what they used to be 30 years ago. So it's not uncommon to now walk into a classroom and most of your children do not have English as their first language. Teachers are becoming very, very frustrated. Some have not adjusted. Some are thinking about adjusting, and some teachers are just lost and don't know what to do. I was in the very same situation. I had my class when I ended my teaching career was the class where all of the ENL students or ELL students were gathered, and I chose that. Okay, I wanted that. One day I received a new student, and she did not speak a lick of English, none whatsoever. And I knew when she came in, she was hollering and screaming, separation anxiety. Her mom wasn't there, and she was living with grandma. She was heartbroken. She was devastated, and she was she was outside of her known world. She was literally very small, and just upset, beyond upset. I had to figure out what to do, and I had to do it quickly. So I relied on some old fashioned things that we used to do, and that is I buddied her up with another student. Now, the student I chose to buddy her up with, actually, I buddied her up with two students. One was a little girl who had separation anxiety issues, who had overcome them, right?
Mm.
And I was watching her and I let her know when she finally overcame those issues. I was very proud of her. So I buddied up this newcomer with that little girl, and they sat next to each other, and they played together, and they had lunch together. And if they were chit chatting in the middle of class, I said nothing
Wait,
because
wait, wait, wait. Say that again.
If they were chit chatting in the middle of class, I said nothing because guess what was happening? The girl who couldn't speak English was learning language.
Oh
And
Lord.
even if she was speaking to her in her native tongue, that was good too because they were making connection. So for me, building classroom culture is very, very important. And building classroom culture starts long before you even walk into that classroom, but that's another show. So she sat with that little girl for a while until I saw her begin to perk up a little bit. She started crying a little bit less because she had a classroom sister.
Mm.
After that, I realized, okay, she's gotten pretty far now. What do I do now? So I decided to next team her up with the little girl who was stronger academically and who was a very tough little girl who had some behavior issues who needed, and I could see what she didn't have was a little sister, because there's something about having a little sister that kind of soften you when you realize, oh, I got to help her out. Oh my goodness, I can, right? It kind of instigates a little bit of compassion. And because my classroom principles, my classroom program was built on having compassion, it fit, right? It dovetailed. So she was with the next little girl for a long period of time, sat next to her. They chit chatted right in the middle of class. They worked together. And I, all the time, was kind of monitoring and watching what was going on. Now, the transition from one little girl to the other little girl was a little bumpy, right? Because there was a point at which they were kind of bickering a little bit because they both wanted to be with her, which was, that this is what happens, right? So I kind of smoothed that over and kept on, and gave them some strategies. They kept on working together. Later on during the year, now remember, this little girl came in, she could not speak English at all, but I could tell she was smart. I could tell she was smart from the something about the way she would approach her work told me, okay, this little girl can handle this. She just needs to learn the language, which is key in an ELL classroom. Not to blame them, and not to label them because they can't speak the language, because they're smart. Most little children are very, 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 very capable, but they may not be able to speak your language. They can speak their language very,
Come
very
on.
well. Yeah, it's important, right? Right. So I noticed a few months later, this little girl started rejecting my help, and, and one day raised her hand and she said, Miss Howard, I got it now. I can do this. Clear as a bell in English. I got it now, Miss Howard. I can do this. And was sitting there doing her work.
Wow. So
Yeah.
because it brings me back because that's how my students were. Now my students were a little more arrogant than yours.
Mm,
Mine would be like, Mr. Johnson, go here somewhere. But urban ed, right? And so
no.
I would train them to in my class, you don't have to be humble.
Mm-hmm.
If you got it, shoot me away, right? Get out. Some people can't handle that. That's just not
Right.
it. But to see a student for who they actually are is
Yes.
really important.
Yes.
And if I had to title that book, that book will be the transformation,
Mm-hmm.
right? A student who found their way. That's the title of that book. And
Yes.
so thinking about inspiration and thinking about where we are now in our teaching journey, what would the chapter of your book be right now? And then I'll share mine after you.
The chapter of my book right now. Um, hmm. Uh, wow. The space that I'm in right now is a culmination of everything that I've learned, but yet there's still a yearning to learn more.
Mm-hmm.
And um, because as a teacher, I was in the habit of disciplining myself to learn more, to prepare, because preparation is extremely important. Because I was in that habit of preparing, I find myself now still in that mode, but sort of changing. I've changed what I prepare for, but because my role has changed, what I do has changed. The chapter that I'm in right now is, I think it's giving back now. I'm giving back to teachers, giving back from what I've learned over the years and from the things that other teachers taught me, because it's a cycle. It's a cycle. Everything I know, other people have poured into me.
Mm, that's
And the
good.
reason I'm able to speak and the reason I'm able to make connections is because of how others have poured into me. So I'm giving back now after having been poured into.
And so, oh, that's so good. It's so good. So mine would be coaching, teaching temperance to temperate teacher, right?
Mm.
Because I think sometimes we let our own personal thoughts overcome what we feel for children, right?
Oh my
If a
goodness.
student, if a student said they said what they said, but what did you do to make them say that, right? And
Oh,
and also there's a certain age, like I need us to stop getting offended, and somebody gonna be mad I said it, but let's stop getting offended by children's actions because of children.
uh,
We should,
wait, stop right there. Wait. Just hold on. That is extremely important because, okay, this is why I do what I do. And I help people to self reflect through written expression. That is what I do in my education consulting. It's all about writing what I'm thinking about, and I guide them through the process and hopefully help them to improve their instructional practice because they're able to self reflect, they're able to identify, and then they're able to change some things. But what you just said triggered me
come on.
because maturity is extremely important. And as we grow and mature, see, it isn't all the stuff I learned that made me or makes me the teacher that I am. It's the process and the journey that I went on and what that journey taught me.
That's right.
Right. See, the journey taught me, and I learned certain life principles from going through. Endurance was the classroom. I had to learn how to endure. And this is why this is one of the things that's fueling me because I learned to endure. And I want other teachers to know if you feel called to teach, you can do it. You can actually make it through that. Right. I'm not going to keep talking because but
Well,
you triggered me when you said that. You got to be mature.
no, I want you to keep talking because now I'm about to go because I mind your business a lot, and so there's something about teaching through the storm
Yes.
that I want the listeners to know, and
Hmm.
I want you to tell me a little bit about it because you danced on it, right? You said endurance was a classroom, but we also know that before endurance, right, you got to start to endure, and there has to be a storm.
Yes.
Those that know that there's a storm out on the ocean, huh?
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's moving. And I'm not trying to be churchy, but I want you to understand that there is a revolution happening in education right now because
Hmm.
millennials are taking over. And I want you to understand millennials' minds are totally different from the generation before us.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so we're at the spiral of the storm where we
Hmm.
are actually coming out and consulting
Hmm.
because our endurance is lower than the generation before us. I'm just keep it
Hmm.
real. But talk about that through the storm mentality, where it
Yes.
came from, what you wrote about, and where you wrote it.
So, so teaching through the storm is my signature essay, and I also teach. When I teach, I have a class that I have on writing, and we talk about writing our signature essay. That's my signature essay that I wrote in 2018. I had been teaching about 25 years in 2018, and I wrote that essay because I needed what's kind of called scriptotherapy. That's when you're writing out what you're thinking and feeling, but it's kind of healing you as you're writing it and as you're reflecting. So that essay that I wrote was a reflection of it was the result of an experience that I had when they changed the evaluation system, and they called me into the office, and I got a really low score on my evaluation, and I was devastated. Here I am, old as I was, teaching 20 something years, and I got a developing because I got a developing. And then I had to reevaluate what I was doing, what I should have been doing, how I was feeling, how I was thinking. I had to reevaluate all of it. But
come on, talk about it.
you got to learn how to hold on and hold out. Because when you learn how to hold, the old saints had it right. They had it right. They had it right. You got to learn how to hold on. Because if you don't hold on, you won't get no power. You won't get any. If you give up, you'll never know what God could have done because you gave up along the way. I held on and I held out. And I learned and I learned and I learned. That was a crisis. You know, at a crisis point, that's also an opportunity for you to come up or to do something else. So for me, God said, you in here for the long haul. Do what I have for you to do. Did you in here? This is what I have for you to do. There's somebody in here. There's a little black boy in here. There's a little Hispanic boy in here. There's a little Asian girl in here. There's a little mixed girl in here. And you have to inspire them. I don't care if they're failing every subject. Keep your eye on them because that's my child right there. This is what God is dealing. This is dealing with me and saying, you see that little boy sitting over there in the third row? I'm going to use him. Make sure you say A, B, C, D, E, F, G to him today. I mean, these are the types of experiences I will have in the spirit of teaching, but also from being filled with the Spirit of God. I would know. And so what I had to do was square my shoulders and walk into that room day after day after day after day after day after day.
I want to unpack that for my people. She followed rule number 1. She didn't say she fought back with the person that gave her that unfavorable feedback. See, y'all might have missed it. She said she squared her shoulders and did what she's supposed to do. Now she might have fought with God like we always do. God, you know, it's okay. We do it.
Yes.
She realized her moment, right? I've been teaching for so long. Nope. I'm gonna be quiet and let you say what you need to say. She minded her business because God told her to go talk to that student, and whatever water that she needed, she got. So if y'all don't mind, I wouldn't be me if I didn't do this, but I think it's preaching time. And so, right? And so I don't mean in the sense of we going spiritual, but I think this is the time in the conversation where we have to pull a teacher in the room and we need to have a real good conversation with them. And so I'm gonna frame it.
Okay.
I'm gonna frame it. First of all, frameworks don't make your lesson. I just want you to know that now. Because I also got an ineffective too. And so let me go to that story first. I got an ineffective my second year teaching. And the person that was in charge of instruction gave me that ineffective. But the person that was in charge of her overruled it.
All right.
And not only did they overrule it, they were baffled, flabbergasted. That I had the audacity to walk into our office and question why that lady gave me an ineffective. And let me tell you why she said, Mr. Johnson, now you know this isn't correct. You absolutely know this is incorrect. I observed you myself. So for you to come in here and think that this was you is baffling to me. I don't even want to hear you out because I already know it's not the truth. Have a good day, it'll be flipped. Because I
Mm-hmm.
had no to believe that. I came in, maybe I did it, maybe I didn't do it right. And then
Right.
she said, young man,
Mm-hmm.
young man, have you looked at your reading data? Have you looked at do you know I had parents and students pulling small groups in first grade?
Mm-hmm.
She was like, young man,
Mm-hmm.
respectfully, have a good day. It's already handled.
Mm-hmm.
But that speaks to the fact of you knowing how to make your lessons resonate to your students.
Yes.
And a framework can't teach you that.
All
Now,
right.
somebody listen, I'm not telling you to go and flip your whole teaching style. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm telling you the same way you receive that word on Monday is the same way you emulate that word in that classroom. So it's preaching time in the house.
All
And so
right.
I want to talk about a time when you felt like you preached. You talked about it earlier, right?
Uh-huh.
Going to the climax, bringing it. I want a time where you preach to those babies or
Yes.
grown folk
Mm-hmm.
or senior citizens, whoever, when
Mm-hmm.
you preached the message to them and it went across generations and you looked at yourself like, wait a minute.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I want to do a quick synopsis of it if you don't mind.
So I think that would be my lesson on fact families. Because when I started teaching, I really wasn't good at teaching math. But then the years went by and I began to understand I didn't have to be perfect at every aspect of math. If I found my niche in math, that is good. When I taught fact families in my classroom, you could feel the spirit of learning all in the room because I knew who I was teaching and I knew La Familia was everything, right?
Mm.
If you know who you're teaching and you know what's most important to them, then you take that thing and you place it right square in the middle of a concept and open it up. The world will open when you do. So, fact family. So, I would begin by saying, did you know that numbers have families? Oh, what you think about numbers? Oh, yes, they do. I was talking to the number 9 the other day, and he introduced me to his wife, number 6. Then, number 6, the mama said, I got a baby named number 3. And wait a minute, let me write that on the board. 9, 6, and 3. Now, do you know in families that when you see one, you're going to have to deal with the other one because they love each other and they're important to each other. So 9, 6, and 3, and I draw a house. They live in this house, right? Right? I'm drawing that rectangle and that
Mm.
triangle on top. That's the house. Now let's see what happens. If I take 6 plus 3, it equals what? 9.
No,
If I take 3 plus 6, it equals what?
nine,
And if I take 9 and take away 6, it equals what?
3,
And if I take 9 and minus 3, it equals what?
6.
What's going on?
Oh God, yeah.
How are all these numbers working? Because they're a family. And families stick together no matter what. Okay. And
Y'all.
so and so when children when and I knew and see I would be speaking a little bit Spanish with them, right? Because I knew my audience, I knew what was extremely important, and then they began to see, does this work with all numbers? Well, the numbers have to be related. 9, 6, and 3 are related, right?
My God.
And so there's other families too. I'm going to teach you all these families because it's all about what? Love and unity. And they're going to stick together and help each other forever and ever and ever because they're families.
Y'all, Somebody just got an award-winning lesson. Somebody just got an award off that lesson right now. I just want you to know somebody's using that, because if they're not using it, then they didn't messed up. But in that message, can we talk about that SEO connection? 2 seconds, I promise. In that connection, in that lesson, she built a connection with family, meaning that the culture of the classroom becomes a family. Because one thing people can connect with is family. I might not like my cousin. My cousin might be the number 3 and I might be the 9, but somehow, all right, y'all ain't get it. It's okay. We'll get y'all the next episode. So I want to share my award-winning preaching lesson, and I have so many, because like my principal used to walk out there. She said, nope. And so I want to do 2, but I'm gonna do 1.
Okay.
I don't know if I want to do. All right, you get to choose Cinderella or Alvin Ailey.
What was the second one? Say that again.
Cinderella or Alvin Ailey.
Oh, Alvin Ailey, honey.
Okay, so in third grade, we had a section on artists. It was a whole thing about artists. Mm-hmm. And so Alvin Ailey, he grew up with church music, right? And so his whole imagery, right, and production was around dancing to church music. And so, gospel music, sorry for the people that are going to say something. And so I talked about how his love for his mom inspired it. And how his love for portraying his art form inspired it. But I also told the children about criticism. Wow. Because there is a time and a place for everything. And some people don't often understand your message. So they didn't understand it when I said it. So I showed it to them. Now, y'all about to have a major shift. I said, let's go into the theory of creation. Let's go into the ideology of creating a piece of dance to understand how to get a message across. Color Purple is my favorite musical. And one day I just had it playing in the background. They were like, we need to do it to that song. And I'm like, Color Purple, like a grain of corn, all that. And they're like, yeah. And I said, well, do you understand the message behind the song? And they're like, no. So I had to teach them that message. And so I'm going deeper. And so we're understanding that there are themes in the world that we have to extract from stories. There are themes in the world that we have to extract from those critics that say something about what you're doing. And then you have to perform it to people that might not get it or may get it, but it has to be right for you. So what is it that you're making and putting into this world that can contribute to the betterment of society? All from Alvin Ailey. Now, we read the story. That was great.
Yep.
So we end up creating this wonderful movement piece. And I'll send the video to you. You get a sneak peek, and it's on my Instagram. It was, I don't know. But we created a movement piece, and when the parents saw it, it was not a dry eye in the house. I mean, you just thought I was Alvin Ailey, I swear. And of course, it was a junior version of the production, but the way we even God is the flowers, and I had 2 girls mimic Celie and Nettie, right? And they and they embrace, and then like a grain of corn. So they're picking the corn, and then the honeybee is flying, water. Like we did all of these things to mimic, understand what it looked like to even exist in the world. And then we talked about the color purple and how it's so all over the place, but we never noticed it. And so I felt like I taught them a lot about the world and creation and how to understand that it is your divine right to create.
Yes.
This man created something and eventually created a legacy. So all that in that lesson, and it was really important to me. That was like my transition year, right? I'd never taught 3rd grade before. And so the fact that they were able to do that, and they asked us to do this dance like 4 or 5 times. And the children were like, now they're asking us to share what we created.
Yes. Come on now.
And now we're doing this for weight. Oh my God, the superintendents might be in the audience.
Yes. Yes.
And so from there it just bloomed, and it was just an amazing process. And I think that's what made me the teacher I am, to see that
Mm.
really just let go. And let me just preface this.
Mm-hmm.
It was a ballet style dance, but I had boys also dancing.
Well, come on now.
I just want to make sure y'all understand. And it wasn't about boy or girl. Everybody did something in the production.
Yes.
Now, of course, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't teach color purple because that's not what they're there for. They can't handle that. But I
Right.
taught them that the song had meaning and that the song came from a book.
So you didn't ban. Let's talk about that. You didn't. You had the intellectual capacity to draw something from a book that was appropriate, whereas that book had some things that might have been inappropriate for that age group. But you didn't just cast the book aside and ban it because.
We did the same thing that movies do. We extract what we need, and when
Mhm.
you're old enough, and I had to, when you're old enough to have a conversation about the book, you'll get it. And what happened 5 years later? A new movie. My God, a new movie. The Color Purple came out, and when I tell it was literally 5 year gap.
Mm.
And my children, whom I still talk to, was like, like,
Got it. Yeah.
anyway, all right. So we're gonna get to our list
It's okay. It's okay.
because I'm getting filled and I want to run, but I'm on the camera, so
That's all right. That's all right.
all right. Last thing, y'all. All right, we wanna pass the torch, give advice, and I want you to pass the torch to. They don't know their name, but I want you to
Mhm.
just look at them in their camera and really
Yeah.
speak to them and pass the torch to them. And I'm gonna do the same. I will
Yes.
first this time. And so I wanna pass the wisdom, the torch, the temperance, the fortitude, the vulnerability, the love, the energy to you.
Mm.
Whoever you might be, I want you to understand that in this season, there's a shift happening and there's a calling over your life, and you need to walk into it.
Yeah.
You need to understand that there is a divine entity inside you that wants you to open the book and minister to whoever it is you have to
Yes.
be that
Yes.
person. I need you to walk in and I need you to recreate yourself and recreate yourself in the image in which is in your heart, and talk to yourself and understand that teaching is not for you at all.
Mm.
Teaching is for the person that you inspire. So
Mm.
I tell you to go down that lonely path
Mm.
and inspire them, because eventually they're going to heal something within you.
Mm.
So I
Mm.
pass the torch to you and I give you all the tools and all the love and all the joy and all the knowledge and all the wisdom, all the book bags, all the books. And I just want to give that to you today. And the Energized Educator loves you. And if you feel like this is you, if you feel like this is you, I want you to find my contact information and I want you to let me know so I can
Mm.
pass the torch correctly.
Yes. Yes. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
That was right on. I
Thank
want teachers to know that you don't have to give up. You don't have to give in and you don't have to throw in the towel. Now, if you feel like you're called and you know you're supposed to be teaching, hang in there and keep on teaching. There are people who will help you. There are resources that you can use that will be a blessing to you. There are mentors that will come alongside of you and guide you and hold you up even though you feel discouraged. It is possible. I'm going to read from a book called The Courage to Teach by Parker Palmer. This is
you.
one of my mentor texts that I bought many, many years ago. Good teachers possess a capacity for connectedness. They're able to weave a complex web of connections among themselves, their subjects, and their students, so that the students can learn to weave a world for themselves. As good teachers, we weave the fabric that joins them with students and subjects. The heart is the loom on which the threads are tied. The tension is held, the shuttle flies, and the fabric is stretched tight. Small wonder then that teaching tugs at the heart, opens the heart, even breaks the heart. And the more one loves teaching, the more heartbreaking it can be. The courage to teach is the courage to keep one's heart open in those very moments when the heart is asked to hold more than it is able, so that the teacher and students and subject can be woven into the fabric of community that living and learning both require. Eleanor
Amen.
Roosevelt said it this way: that which you cannot do, you must.
Mm. Now that's a torch. If there's anybody that connected, please reach out. We're here for you, right? And so there are things that we do, and I want to take a minute to talk about one of the things that we're doing. I think I'm going to switch it up, and you don't know this, but I'm going to share this with you.
Uh oh.
I have two things I want to share with you that are listening today. And the first is that I do read on YouTube. So if you need some inspiration on how to read to children, I do it every week, every Monday. It is a joy of mine. It is a love language to myself. It is a love letter to my younger self, because when I was younger, I was pushed into behavior that I didn't really remember the joy of reading. So if you are somebody, please subscribe to the channel. Definitely read. But I want to make a big announcement today. And so I wrote a book, and it's
Yeah.
finished. And it's
Ah.
finished. So those that reach out and see this, I want to give you an exclusive number of pages for you to preview it and let me know what you think, because it's coming. And I want to make sure you understand the message and the intent behind it. But I wrote a book called Joey, A Long Way Home. And it's about my journey and a little bit about what we talked today. But again, if this excites you, and if this makes you wonder what else you can learn from Joey, then I think that you should reach out. Now, I want you to also remember that my name at the bottom of the screen is not Joey,
Mm.
but that was the name given to me for the first couple years of my life. So I want you to understand the complexity of this story and realize that once I share this gift with you, you will forever be changed with the story that I provide. So that is what I have for you. If it is your desire to unpack the story with me, I would greatly appreciate it. And if not, you can definitely subscribe to my YouTube and watch every week. And I will be on doing those things.
Mm-hmm. And I have a webinar coming up. Save the date, February 17th. This webinar is for people kind of nearing the end of their teaching careers and they're wondering what they want to do. It's called Three Strategies to Creating an Effective Exit Plan as a Teacher. So if you are, up there in years and you still have that teaching energy and you're not sure exactly what you want to do, join me on February 17th. We can get that information to you for a free webinar. It's during the evening. My email address is Jennifer's Education Consulting 31 at gmail.com.
Yeah, that's the blessing. So now you know how I got to end
Uh-huh.
it.
Yes, I do.
You know how I got to end it. But I'm
Well,
going to ask you how you want to end this thing before I go sing it. Is there anything you want to say?
I don't think there's anything, just I'm still holding on.
I know that's right. I know
Keep
that's
on keeping on.
that's right. And
That's right.
so I wanna start this song. We're gonna end it here. But Whitney Houston said, there's a road. Nope, 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 nope. Y'all not getting step by step tonight. Step by step, road by road. Thank you all for talking to us today. We really appreciate your time. And we'll see you next time when we get together again.
All right.